You're tuning in to a special explainer we like to call a Blue Bus Learning Bite, brought to you right from the coaches at the Blue Bus. We're going to explore a fascinating, kind of invisible concept that affects almost every single organization, yet somehow it hides completely out of sight. Our goal today is to unpack this together in a really inviting and practical way. So let's get comfortable and begin lifting the lid on what we call WORKPITI. To start us off, I'd love to pose a question that, honestly, might feel a little too familiar. Have we ever felt like we're swimming in water we simply can't see? Or maybe like we're working inside a massive machine that just feels like it's filled with grit? You know, just like a fish doesn't really understand the water it swims in, we often get so incredibly immersed in our daily organizational processes that we completely stop noticing the friction. We adapt. We get used to the delays, the extra steps, the complicated workarounds. This friction is exactly what we might think of as sand in the gears of our daily work, quietly, continually slowing everything down. That invisible friction, it actually goes by a specific name, WORKPITI. Now, WORKPITI is the Blue Bus description for 8 very specific types of blind spot waste that commonly plague our work. Think of it as waste that is hiding literally right there in plain sight, just eating up time and effort without adding a single drop of real value. But here's the good news. Once we learn how to spot it, we start seeing incredible opportunities to improve performance and really engage everyone in making our day-to-day experience so much better. Okay, let's dive into this acronym and break down what WORKPIT actually stands for. It beautifully maps out 8 letters, representing that grit in our system. We start with W for waiting. You know, waiting for approvals, waiting for information, waiting for materials. Then there's O for overproduction, basically producing more than is immediately required. R is for rework. We all know that frustrating feeling of correcting errors or just doing things twice. Next up, K stands for kinetics. This is all that excessive physical movement, like walking long distances or heavy lifting just to get a basic job done. P is overprocessing, which means doing way more work than necessary, like navigating crazy complex bureaucracy. I is inventory, excess materials, just cluttering up the workspace. T is transport, the unnecessary physical movement of people or things. And finally, the last I is intelligence failures. Together, these 8 elements literally form the sand in our organizational gears. When we really look at how this impacts us, it's actually quite profound. For the organization as a whole, this sand in the gears generates a ton of heat and friction. It completely impedes efficiency, adds unnecessary costs, ties up cash, and at the end of the day, reduces revenue. But let's think about the people doing the work. For us employees, WORKPITI just completely saps our precious energy. It frustrates our sense of ownership, and it literally steals away that wonderful, satisfying feeling of achievement at the end of a hard day. And of course, for our customers, it often translates into really slow service and totally unreliable supply. Let's look a bit closer at that final I, intelligence failures, because this one is, well, incredibly relatable. I mean, how draining is it to supply the exact same information over and over again, or having to go back to square one on every single follow-up because the information is split across a dozen different systems? Intelligence failures also happen whenever an organization fails to use the talent, the knowledge, and the skills of the people who actually work there. When we don't involve the people who actually do the work in designing the work, we miss out on some truly brilliant insights. And honestly, that is a massive waste of human potential. So we have to ask, where does all this waste actually come from? While WORKPITI definitely shows up in the physical world, its true roots often lie deep within the mindsets and beliefs that shape how we design our work in the first place. We can broadly categorize these mindsets into 3 different cultures or buses. First, the red bus culture. This is your classic top-down command and control. Bosses assume they know best and they just expect employees to comply. It's very much a tell and push culture. Then we have the green bus culture. This one is marked by compliance and avoiding conflict at all costs. Here, systems are designed to shield everyone from accountability. People just tick the boxes, put up with the WORKPITI, and keep their heads down. But in stark contrast, the blue bus culture is marked by a really deep commitment to excellence and continuous improvement. Blue bus organizations collaborate, fully recognizing that the very best work methods were created by the frontline employees who are actually facing the realities of the work every single day. Now, what's really fascinating here is the concept of a hidden tax. When red bus or green bus managers subconsciously assume that employees just aren't capable of making the right choices, they self-impose this massive cost on the business. We like to call this the low trust tax. By ingraining their policies with external controls that strip away employee judgment and autonomy, they create this awful cycle of distrust. And this complicatedness, it doesn't just cost the organization a ton of money, but it completely frustrates the employees who are just trying to navigate it all. The red bus uses a push model. Support functions push complex, highly detailed procedures down into the workplace, trying to cover every possible scenario and completely removing all discretion. This just creates resistance, and you guessed it, we more work pity. The Blue Bus, on the other hand, operates on a pull model. It actively invites employees to have a hand in developing the procedures. Because the workers actually help build the work methods, the solutions are highly practical, tailored to reality, and give people the discretion to deal with exceptions naturally. If we can shift our mindsets and really tackle this laced, how might we all earn this second paycheck? Well, think of it this way. Our first paycheck pays our bills, right? But our second paycheck is the intrinsic reward we receive. It's that vital sense of purpose, the feeling of real achievement, and the belonging that comes from doing truly meaningful work. When an organization actually reduces work pity, it affords us the space to take accountability. We get an absolute buzz from solving problems that make our jobs better, and we get to share that awesome success with our peers. To get to that second paycheck, we might just need to change what we're looking for. You see, many organizations get totally seduced by big F solutions, the massive policies, the huge strategic initiatives, and those sweeping IT programs. They definitely grab our attention, but they carry huge risks and, honestly, rarely deliver the promised benefits. Instead, Blue Bus organizations empower us to hunt for little F solutions. These are your everyday, low-risk improvements, things like taking a minute out of a process step, or tweaking a desk layout to reduce kinetics, or just fixing a recurring error. While one little F might seem tiny, they rapidly accumulate into massive benefits without any of the massive risk. Reducing work pity really is one of the most overlooked opportunities to elevate our performance. Because people are intrinsically motivated to solve problems, Blue Bus organizations actively invite us to slow down in order to speed up. They provide a beautifully simple, empowering checklist to help us refine and share our improvement ideas. It's a handy acronym called SELL. We simply ask 4 questions. S, is it safe? E, is it ethical? L, is it legal? And the final L, is it lifting the lid on performance? Using SELL provides a wonderful, easy mental map to safely pitch those little F solutions that make our days so much smoother. Now, when we zoom out and look at the larger organization, we start to see how these choices build on each other. Work inside modern companies is highly interdependent. We very rarely manage an entire end-to-end process completely on our own. Instead, we sit within a flow. Actions and choices made at one point, what we call the upstream action, flow down and very frequently manifest as work pity for the teams downstream. This creates a phenomenon known as burden shifting. Basically, a choice made in one department becomes a massive headache in another. For example, say a small error is made by a sales team. That might cause a huge delay for customer service when they try to generate an invoice. Or maybe a production team decides to overproduce just to hit their own internal goals, but that creates excess inventory that the warehousing team then has to repeatedly move around. Or even poor cleanup by one team that completely delays a maintenance technician from stepping in to make a repair. Often, this is a total blind spot for the team unintentionally causing the problem in the first place. And this is exactly why Blue Bus leaders invest so much effort in working across the entire organization. True collaboration means we absolutely don't just optimize our own little silos to win our own metrics. Instead, we connect to optimize the entire end-to-end process. A Blue Bus mindset actively seeks to resolve work pity internally while being incredibly mindful to ensure we don't just impose our work pity onto the teams downstream from us. It's about setting every single team in the chain up for success. As we wrap up this learning bite, I'd like to leave you with a bit of an invitation. We've explored how work pity acts as that invisible sand in our gears and how empowering our teams to find little F improvements can really deliver that fulfilling second paycheck. So as you look around your own workspace and processes today, I invite you to just ask yourself, where might we spot the sand in our gears today? And how might we beautifully use the SELL framework to safely lift the lid on it?